But now we're going to go up to Ponte Vedra Beach to talk to Orlando Sentinel golf writer Jeff Shain, who was up there all weekend covering the Players' Championship. You can read all of Jeff's stuff, all of his coverage of the Players' Championship, and his wildly popular golf blog, The Downswing, at orlandosentinel.com. Jeffrey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, Jeffrey. We've been talking about Bon Jovi this morning because Bon Jovi played Orlando last night, and it's my opinion that Bon Jovi is a really good band, but they shouldn't go down as one of the all-time greats. I compare Bon Jovi, I will call them the KJ Choi of rock and roll. Your thoughts on Bon Jovi?
Well, that's an interesting comparison. I would if we're talking about a band that's been commercially successful but not doesn't necessarily have the goods. I was trying to think of players that are more fan favorites that don't have the wins next to them. It's probably a guy that's a little unfair at this point because he's so young, and that doesn't compare with Bon Jovi. But a guy like Ricky Fowler, who we talk about a lot, as being the part of that next wave of PGA Tour players, but still hasn't got a win under his belt. Maybe somebody like that. Only I'm trying to come up with somebody from an older generation that would be along those lines. Fred Couples maybe, who's very, very popular, but only has one major championship to his credit.
What about Lee Trevina?
Well, Lee, yeah.
How many majors did he win?
He won. I think he won 4.
Oh, did he? Okay, yeah, he's too good. He's too good.
Yeah, so it's got to be somebody who you'd think would have more majors under his belt. Davis Love, kind of the same thing.
There you go. I like that. Yeah, Bon Jovi is the Davis Love of rock and roll. Very nice, Jeffrey. Jeff, tell us about KJ Choi. I like him. I like the fact that he was acknowledging the crowd on his way down the fairway. Seems to be a jovial guy, well-liked. Tell us about KJ Choi, his golf game, and what it meant for him to win the Players' Championship yesterday.
Well, I think that he is a very, very well-liked guy on tour, particularly for a guy that, came over. We hear all about these Korean players that have dominated the LPGA, up until recently when other parts of the world have started to catch up. Well, KJ is the men's pioneer of Korean golf, and came over about 10 years ago. Really didn't know anybody, but wanted to try his way on tour, and has been a very, very solid player for a number of years. This is his 9th PGA Tour victory. He's won a couple of times in Tampa. He's won other places, and speaks passable English. You can have a good conversation with him. Not the most quotable guy, but I think everywhere you go, he's always been very, very cordial, very genial. I mean, how else do you win over a group of guys from Nashville, Tennessee, who come to the Players' Championship every year and follow them around, a group called Choi's Boys?
Jeff, let me ask you this. I was listening to watching the broadcast yesterday, and I think I saw a stat where KJ Choi has not hit the ball in the water, and it's been like years since he's hit a ball in the water. Did you know that?
They keep some pretty good stats over the NBC compound. I did not have that at my fingertips, and I don't have that at my fingertips now. But I kind of rifling through the holes that I recall, seeing him play. I don't recall one in any shots in the water. I think also what's interesting to see is if you look at his scorecards from the entire week, that stretch on the back 9 where you can give up a lot of shots. He from 12 on over 4 days, he just made 1 bogey, and to be able to play that well down the stretch, and he was very, very patient yesterday. Was 2 shots back with 7 to play. Continued to play very steady, and it was waited for David Toms to blink, and Toms blinked twice to give him the lead. Toms also birdied 18 to force it into the playoff, but when it came to the playoff, Choi was the guy that held steady again.
Talking to Jeff Shain, golf writer for the Orlando Sentinel. Jeff, non-Americans now hold all 4 major championships and now the 5th major. How troubling is that for American golf?
Well, I suppose if we were to just focus on the guys who hold the trophies, it might be a problem. But you take a look at the leaderboard at Ponte Vedra, and there are a lot of American flags on the board, just not the guy at the top. David Toms was in the playoff with KJ Choi. Paul Goydos was third. Nick Watney, who had the most roller coaster weekend. He had a poker hand that was as good as anybody's. He had everything from 3 to 8 on his card at some point yesterday. But he finished in a tie for fourth. You had Hunter Mahan and J.B. Holmes and Jason Duffner in a tie for sixth. The world rankings are starting to see guys like Watney and Dustin Johnson work their way in. So even though they may not be the guys at the top of these lists, you've got a lot of guys that are in contention, and they're doing it kind of in a committee fashion. So you've got a number of guys that are making that run. I don't think I would be too worried at this point.
Jeff, what happened to, obviously David Toms played well over the weekend and was almost won the thing, but what happened to him? A few years ago, he was one of the top players in the world, and he's sort of fallen off the map.
Well, it's an injury situation for him. He had back problems in 2007 and 2008. You heard, if you're watching the NBC broadcast, you heard that it almost forced him off the tour for a little while. He had a spur in his rotator cuff really as late as middle part of last year. Very painful. Had to decide whether or not to take surgery on that. And I think when you get beat up by injuries, sometimes it's hard to get the confidence up. And when you get in your 40s too, and you've got a family, and you realize that your kids only have X number of years left in the house, sometimes being away on tournaments, while important, while it's still your bread and butter, there's that part of you that that is thinking more of home and what's going on with your kids' grades or their soccer game or whatever there. And I think a lot of players go through that. I think David Toms went through that. And again, from the broadcast, and it was mentioned a lot in the post-tournament press conference, David's son kind of brought him back around to the game because now he plays golf. And it's, Dad, let's go out to the golf course. Dad, can you help me with my grip? Can you show me this shot? And all of a sudden now David Toms is a little bit back in the game. And I think because of that, we're going to start to see better results as we go along. David Toms was third at Bay Hill for those that were there a couple months ago.
Jeff, last thing, obviously Tiger Woods remains the top story in golf. He withdraws after 9 holes in the first round on Thursday. Where does Tiger Woods go from here? We had a question in our in the paper today. Can Woods win a tournament again this year or next? And I wrote, I don't know if he's going to play a tournament again this year or next. Where is his health right now? And is Tiger Woods falling off the face of the golf map? Well,
I think Tiger may not know where he is health-wise. I suppose he's got to go get another MRI. He's got to go talk to some more doctors. And I think at this point he may need to very seriously sit back and say, you know what, the body is breaking down to the point where you can't come back the way you did in 2008, and win the U.S. Open on a broken leg. It's very, very possible he may need to go get the knee fixed, go get the Achilles fixed, do the rehab, and do what he did essentially after winning the U.S. Open in 2008, shut it down, call it a year, and just hope that next year he can come back in full health. And then in full health, he can start working on getting his game in shape to kind of put the critics aside. I don't think that with his body the way it is that he's going to be able to produce a golf swing that's going to be a winning tournaments type golf swing, and that all builds the criticism.
Jeff, last thing. Obviously, it was a big topic last week. Now that Tiger's injured again, do you think he's going to break Jack Nicklaus's record? Now, a couple years ago, it seemed like a given. Now everybody's sort of off that bandwagon.
it really has been a mass exodus off the bandwagon, and I was kind of half-half in 2009. Pre SUV fire hydrant type thing. I was kind of half-half because I've seen the young talent coming up, and I knew that he'd have to beat these guys to win those majors. But you can't do it if you're playing in a 45-year-old body, and we've talked a lot about that here in recent weeks. Tiger's 35 chronologically, but the way that he plays golf and the way he has put himself through a lot of things, and the torque that he puts on that knee, it's a real question. When is the knee replacement surgery coming for Tiger Woods? Because that knee simply is not going to hold up to old age. When you throw all the physical ailments now into the equation, boy, I think that window is narrower and narrower.
He is Jeff Shain, golf writer for the Orlando Sentinel. Read all of his golf coverage, including his wildly popular blog, The Downswing, at orlandosentinel.com. And Jeff Shain said right here that Bon Jovi is the Davis Love III of rock and roll. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Mike.